Hi everyone, welcome to another video of ASMR Gourmet. This is actually my first video, at least that I've made in English. I wanted to try one of these because at least it really suits me when I watch a video in another language, not only the native language of the person making the ASMR video. So and besides, I think there is a lot of misconceptions towards what actual Mexican food is like, which brings me to the topic of the video, which is typical Mexican breakfast in some parts of the country. To start with, and this one is very traditional, I've got some beans. These are regular pinto beans, we call them, frijoles pintos, just cooked in regular water with some garlic powder and salt. And they're still really warm. Also, it's not because I made them, but they're pretty good. Next, in the main plate, we've got a bunch of different things. I've got a couple of eggs sunny side up, meatloaf, which at least in my house is very common. My mom used to make it a lot when I was little. We called it pastel de carne. Also, a little topping of cottage cheese, which we also consume a lot here in Mexico, but we typically use requesón. We call it. It's requesón is really similar to what in the States and in Italy they call ricotta cheese. I've got a little bit of tomatoes, which we call tomates or jitomate in certain parts of Mexico. I just cooked them in the slow cooker for about 12 hours. I was initially planning on making some salsa, but I liked them as they turned out. Not quite complete, not quite whole, but also not quite salsa. They're really good. Also, some sweet potatoes, which we call camotes. These ones I made in my wood-fired oven. To those of you who may be first-time listeners or just didn't understand what I was saying in my other videos, I'm a baker. I'm a home baker, so I try to use all the energy from the wood-fired oven that I have, which is why I make a lot of sweet potatoes lately. I just leave them in the ashes and the coals of the wood, and after about 5 or 6 hours, they're completely cooked. But I've been talking for quite a long time now, and I'm really hungry. Even though it's almost midday today, I haven't had proper breakfast yet. Normally I wake up at around 5 in the morning or so, mostly because as a baker I need to start working early. But even on days like today when I don't have, oh, I forgot the word. Well, when I don't have work to do, I don't have to mix bread or bake bread. I typically wake around the same hour. So anyway, I just had a protein bar in the morning, some peanuts, and I worked out, cleaned my house a little bit, and yeah, so it's taken quite a bit of time for me to have breakfast. Oh, I also had. Sorry, I'm trying to concentrate and decide what I'm gonna make my taco out of. Oh yeah, I have some tortillas. Also, yeah, I did have a little bit of whey protein after I worked out because I tend to get really hungry when I don't eat after working out. So anyway, cheers. forgot to add some salsa. This is just some regular green salsa. This one, though it's pretty normal, it doesn't taste normal at all. It's from Rose Rotisserie. Rotisserie is that the word for it? That is near my house. I made a video about it. It's just the last one before this, and they tend to put a lot of cumin in all the food they make. So this also tastes a lot of cumin, and it's pretty good. And also some coffee with a bit of cream. If you were watching this video from someplace outside of Mexico, which you probably are because of the language, I think there's a lot of misconceptions as to what a proper taco is. Some people outside of her tend to think that a taco is just tortilla, carne al pastor, and things of that nature. That there's some kind of rule for what a taco is and isn't. In my opinion, as long as it has a soft tortilla or a crunchy tortilla and it's enveloping some other ingredients or foods, that's considered a taco. But I'm forgetting the beans. I'm just gonna add a lot of salsa. Excuse my manners, but I believe soup or any kind of stock doesn't taste the same if you don't. What's the term for it in English though? Sip from the bowl. Is that it? Yeah. Now a little bit of sweet potato. In certain parts of Mexico, especially in the central and the southern Mexico, they eat a lot of sweet potatoes. Sometimes they just bake them, they boil them, and so forth, and have them as some sort of a cookie with coffee. They literally dip the sweet potato in the coffee. I'm not really into that though. I've always considered camotes or sweet potatoes as a savory dish, but a lot of people like doing that. Now these ones I left on the coals for quite a while, and they were actually still pretty red and hot, so it burned off a bit. Actually, I should say a lot. I had to throw a couple of camotes away because they were technically stones. But as an excuse, it hasn't been done that long since I've had my wood fired oven. So I'm still getting used to working around it and knowing the temperatures. It's quite really complicated. It's really enjoyable though, but you have to rethink a lot of ideas you had, especially me since I've been a cook for almost 12 or so years. So I've always worked with home ovens or industrial ovens. So working with direct heat from an open spit or fire is quite different from what I've been used to. Yes, this is gonna be some taco. Let me just have a spoonful of beans. And just what I expected. Now, on the topic of beans, believe it or not, uh, there's kind of not a debate in its own word, but I would say sort of discrimination. I was unconscious though, but still a discrimination towards the kinds of beans that are eaten in each region. Where I live, which is just south of Texas, the state is called Chihuahua. Not related at all to the dog. We mostly eat pinto beans or white beans. Well, I guess they're kind of light brown. But black beans, they're not so popular. I've talked to a lot of people, some of them anthropologists or others. The word is not socialists, it's people that study the science of social. Damn, I know in Spanish it's people that studied socialismo. I forget anyway. People that not know stuff, and they all agree that there's kind of a racism towards black beans because still in a lot of parts of Mexico it's considered something that is dirty or not pleasant, which is kind of weird, right? Because technically all of us in Mexico are brown skinned or dark skinned. Makes you kind of wonder. I guess racism, I'm sorry, major or small, is present in everywhere that human beings exist. Now, to be honest, the sweet potato doesn't mix that well with spicy salsa, but It's still a good taco. Also, I forgot to mention that eggs are a staple of any Mexican, any proper, at least Mexican breakfast. And I guess that's the same for everywhere in the world, or at least almost anywhere. The, the act of cooking them directly on top of coals and ashes does give them a lot of flavor than you would otherwise get from boiling them or just baking them in a regular oven. I was originally planning on making these sweet potatoes bread, but since they turned out a lot crispier than I liked them, I thought I'll just eat them myself. This is the last piece. It was worth every damn calorie. Now I just got a bit more of beans to go. I find it kind of funny that the term for, well, to describe in a racist way Mexicans is beaners, because even though we do eat a lot of beans and have done so for the longest time in our history, even before the Spanish conquistadors came, the actual staple of our nutrition was always corn. So if anything, I think the term should be corners, which is also funny because it ended up being the staple carbohydrate of the world. So here's to Mexico for corn and beans also. Now coffee. We owe coffee to the Arabs. I don't remember exactly what date it was that coffee arrived to England, but there's quite a lot of story there. If you're not familiar with the story of coffee, I would suggest that you look it up. It is super interesting how, if I don't remember wrong, the Arabs or the Indians, I can't quite remember, had the monopoly of coffee beans. So what they did in order to prevent other countries from cultivating the plant and taking their monopoly away was that they wouldn't sell literally any coffee bean without it being roasted first, because that would render it unusable, at least to plant it. So the story goes that Englishman was on a foray into, again, I don't remember, Arabia or India, but he got his hands on a coffee plant, a little coffee plant. So he decided to bring it back to England. But back then, trips across the sea took months and months. So he went to all kinds of trouble to keep his plant alive, going through Indian customs, risking his life because it was illegal to bring it back to England. So, accordingly, there's a point where he sacrificed his own water daily allowance to feed the plant because he was sure, maybe not profit, but that it would grow on England. So anyway, after about 6 months in the sea, he gets back. He does plant it, and after a few years, his first coffee beans gave fruit. So again, the story goes that he was just giving them to friends as a super special gift, and no wonder it was the first freaking coffee outside of India that was grown in the history of the world. And then someone stole a few coffee beans, planted his own, and the rest is history. Some even connect the popularity of cafes or popular places to drink coffee with friends to Darwin creating or coming up at least with the theory of evolution and all sorts of things, because back then all the popular meeting places were places where you would drink alcohol and booze and ale and things like that and wine. So people would get intoxicated and most of the time forget the ideas they had. But the theory goes that with coffee, it wasn't like that. Since they wouldn't get intoxicated, they would actually get more aware, wake up more. So they would discuss ideas, they wouldn't forget them, they would write them down, and eventually, not only Darwin, but a lot of great ideas came from those meetings. And it does kind of make sense. I mean, if in the modern day, if all the meetings you had with friends were places where you drink booze, it would really narrow the conversations down to either getting wasted or getting wasted. I don't know. It is kind of fun. I mean, there's also the history of tea, of Asian tea. But that's a story for another time. For now, I'm just gonna finish my coffee quietly while I wash the dishes. And hey, thanks for joining me. I always say in my videos, and I mean it, that it really gets me quite relaxed. And I do hope that you get it just as relaxed as I did making it. So, again, thank you, and I'll see you in another video. I plan on making more English spoken videos soon, so stay tuned.